Abba Yusuf of Kano State is taking a significant step in the Kano State traditional landscape. The governor, in the company of his deputy, the Speaker of the State Assembly, and other principal officers in the government, signed into law the Kano State Emirates Council Amendment Bill.
This is the beginning of the history of Kano. Thank you.
He subsequently announced the 14th Emir of Kano, His Royal Highness Alhaji Sunusi Lamido II, as the Emir of Kano.
By the provisions of the Kano State Chiefs and Emirs Appointment and Deposition Law 1984 and the Kano State Emirate Council Repeal Law 2024, with full support of the kingmakers, I have approved the reappointment of Malam Sunusi Lamido, popularly known as Muhammadu Sunusi II, as the new Emir of Kano.
Earlier, the State House of Assembly dissolved all 4 newly created emirate councils. The dissolution of the affected emirates is sequel to deliberations on the floor of the House during plenary. The bill receives accelerated passage from the lawmakers. This decision marks a significant shift in Kano State's traditional leadership structure, reinstating the historical prominence of the Kano Emirate under the leadership of Emir Sunusi II. Sadiq Ilyasu, Channels Television News.
All right, welcome back. Yes, indeed, that is what we're going to be talking about this morning. We've got Abdul Adamufage here with us. He's a legal practitioner. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Thank you.
Yeah, we also do have Usman Imam, who is also a legal practitioner, and lecturer at Yusuf Metama Sule University, who joins us from our studios in Kano. Welcome
Good morning.
to him. Good morning. Thank you for joining us as well today on the program. So, gentlemen, let's get to it. So, this back and forth today happens to be a significant day. We'll talk about why. But let me start with you, Mr. Fage. Yes, we understand, as reported, why did that? There are mixed reactions to this, but we've seen the backstory at back end. After the State Assembly passed a law, the governor signed it, and maybe, as some people say, the rest is history. What's your impression of this?
Well, thank you, Bios. Good morning, all. You see, the impression is, in fact, when I learned day before yesterday that the State Assembly even made the first reading and they concluded everything, and the next day they concluded all the second and third reading and passed that bill. It baffles me. It baffles me in the sense that, you see, you cannot just go and pass law, especially dethroning the MS, without any allegation leveled against them that they did this, they did that, they committed something to them, or as they perceive, which is worthy of being serving them with even allegations, so that they will respond, so that when they fail to, maybe all these machineries will be put in place. As for me, I had no of that, but I don't know you as media. There was no any report that these emirs do certain thing or did certain thing or committed something which is worthy of being querying them. And there was no any query placed before them. They just mobilized the members of the State House of Assembly. They passed the law in less than 48 hours. In fact, it's touching and disturbing.
But have they done anything wrong by passing this law and going about it like this?
Well, actually, if you look at Section 4 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, it's clear. The State House of Assemblies, in fact, that section created the legislature. They have power under that section to make law, to also amend and repeal all laws. It's within their competence. I'm not doubting that. But what ignited them? You cannot just wake up and say, let me make law. No, laws are made for good governance. That's the central of making law.
I think I need to clarify on that, because what we're trying to find out is, do they need a reason to remove the emirs? Was there, because that's what you're saying? Oh, they just passed the law. They didn't accuse them of anything. Does the law say that they have to accuse them of something before they are removed?
You know, the emir or the emirs or all the other staff, all the other appointees are creation of the law, because they were made through the instrument of the law. So if you want the throne, or if you want to remove any person in Nigeria, especially, even though that section 2023 law of Kano said they refill it as well, which spell out all the procedures before you dethrone emirs or before you remove any person appointed by emir. So they were clever by her, not knowing that there is a rules of natural justice which is invested under Section 36 of the 1999 Constitution. You cannot just go ahead and remove any appointee without giving him notice, without serving him with study, even though they repeal that law of Kano State. So we have ground now in the Constitution. They must have it before dethroning any emir in Nigeria. So that's the point they miss in doing that.
Usman man, let's bring you in here. He's just fell short of saying, look, there may be lawmakers, but this is a tad dictatorial in the way they've gone about it.
So, assalamu alaikum once again. I remain Barrister Usman Imam Tidun Wuzurti. As my learned friend has said, there is no contention why the 4 new emirs will be removed. But initially, Nigeria is a constitutional, we as a Republican constitution, I mean. So under Republican constitution, if you look at the law that was passed during Ganduje administration, it's totally illegal and unconstitutional. Yes, why I say it's illegal, unconstitutional, and is 100% defective, because under constitutional system where the country becomes Republican Constitution, Professor Ben Onwoboze has argued on different literature that you cannot have a law that will bring the divisions among the citizens. So if you look at the Ganduja's law that has been repealed within those days, it has a kind of brought the division of the citizens. There are those that are entitled with the, what do you call it, hereditary rights, and there are those that are not. You see, if you look at the some sections of the law, the laws, the sections articulate that the descendant of, let's say, Bichi, a descendant of Serkin Kano Dabo, second of the Fulani emirs, then will be the emir there in case of any vacancy. Then in Kano Emirate, the descendant of the same Serkin Kano Dabo of blessed memory will be appointed if there is any vacancy. So if you look at the constitutional prohibition under section 42, that's which it says, I think I can quote the law clearly, which it says, no citizen of Nigeria shall be subjected to any disability or deprivation merely by reason of the circumstances of his birth. So if you look at it, the law that was passed during Ganduje contradicts the constitution 100%. This is a fundamental human right, issue of discrimination. And you know, the issue of discrimination does not emanate from Nigerian constitution. It emanates from African Charter. And it also, if you go to a European Convention, Article 3, so there are so many prohibitions of written law that this law, which has been revealed, has contradicted. So to me, the repeal is in order. And whatever comes under it is the constitutional provision that the State Assembly exercises under Section 100 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. It empowers them to make laws under Section 4, as my learned colleague has mentioned. So if you look at it, there is nothing wrong, even if they have not committed any offense, but the law, you see, they have been removed by circumstances. It's only by the circumstances, not by any allegation. There is no any allegation. That is why the emirs were given 48 hours to vacate from the palaces. So if there is any offense they have committed, the direction is going to be different. So for that, there is no any illegality in this amendment. The amendment, to me, as a lawyer, as a constitutional lawyer, particularly when it comes to the issue of human rights, particularly the issue of discrimination, I think the amendment is in order.
Thank you so much for clarifying that, Mr. Usman. But I want to come back to Mr. Fage, because he touched on something right now, which is the stool of the emir. At the time when these 4 emirates were added to the Kano Emirate, making them 5 emirates. Yeah. One of the issues that many Nigerians had, even in Kano, even in Kanawa, they were all talking about this, was that it had reduced the authority of the seat of the emir, a revered seat. And that's something that he's alluded to. What did you make of that? And do you think that with everything that's going on now, is there a possibility that that authority and reverence that comes with the seat of the emir would return? Of course, there's a conversation going on right now about the economies that were created around these 4 extra institutions and what's going to happen to all of those people. We'll get to that shortly. But the seat of the emir, does what has happened now, in your view, bring back any sort of reverence that was accrued to that seat of the emir?
The seat of emir, the seat of Oba, the seat of Obi, all these seats are revered and exalted. There is no doubt about it. And I see no harm. And in fact, almost across the Nigeria, we have so many emirs in one state. In Katsina, in Jigawa, even in South and Southeast. So many states with emirs, not only single emir. So there's no harm in that. That reverence, as you are talking about, and the exalted seed of the emir, once you are serving your people, whether it's 1 emir or 2 emir, there are some demarcation, like in Kano now. The emir of Bichi has about 13 to 14 local government under him, so also the other emirs. And in fact, during the Ganduje administration, each emirate council, they went and constructed mosques, a third road, hospitals. In fact, so many infrastructures were put in place for the betterment of the people of that area. And that is why Abnishoi said the laws are made for good governance.
So in your view, adding 4 emirates didn't reduce the authority of the seat of the emir. Let me ask Mr. Usman about the economy, the economies that were created around these 4 extra emirates, because that is one of the contentions right now. Places the places where is the Bichi, Rano, Karae, Gaya, all these places that had the emirates. Of course, it gave people jobs. It created economies around those places. Now, with the passage of this bill that has happened right now, what happens to those mini economies that were created around those 4 extra emirates and the people that benefited?
So, to me, whether there is economy, I know there is. Yes, it's very unfortunate. That is why whenever our politicians are going to exercise their constitutional power, let them exercise it accordingly. That powers should not be abused. Now look at it. Some people are going to be a little bit victims. But I know the governor is very kind. Those that have been engaged in emirate services are going to be returned because the local governments there exist. So if you look at it, you cannot build anything, you cannot build something on nothing. So the law that has brought them very unfortunately does not stand. So if you look at it constitutionally, whatever advantages we have is immaterial as far as the law is defective. So it's very unfortunate. But I know with the because government must have a kind of plan B to see that the situation is going to be remedied. So I hope the governor is going to at least encourage the economic activities so that people are not going to be rendered useless and unemployed. So I hope this is going to be done. But the law, as far as I am concerned, is in order. That is my bone of contention.
I want to get your thoughts on there's a court that's granted an order that is halting Sanusi's reinstatement. Are you aware of this? And what do you make of that?
So actually, it has been very unfortunate why judicial powers have been abused in Nigeria. Each and every person knows that our court behave as if they are not independent, or I think like there is no sanctity of judiciary, which is ought to be. So whether the order has been granted or is not granted, what the order is saying is an ex parte order that will restrain. But fortunately, the act has been completed. So now, what are you going to restrain? So the order cannot affect the entire process because it's supposed to be issued or granted before the State Assembly started their programs. And it's their constitutional right. We have mentioned Section 4, and I have mentioned Section, let me mention Section 90 and down to Section 100 of the Constitution. So if you look at it, they have powers to make laws. As far as the laws are not illegal, immoral.
So, Mr. Mann, are you then saying that notwithstanding the order obtained from the Kano State High Court, preventing them from enforcing the law that was repealed, that law should not and cannot be obeyed?
What I'm saying, the order does not have any direct consequence with the law, because the law has been passed before the order was issued. And when we are talking about ex parte, you issue ex parte in order to prevent a harm when you think there is harm. But in this situation, there is no even harm.
No,
but
the order is not to stop them from making the law. The order is to stop them from enforcing that particular law pending the determination of that matter.
So how are you going to stop a governor that enjoys constitutional backing to sign on any bill that has been brought before him? Or so, how are you going to say there is an order?
So tell us then, I mean, as a law lecturer, are you then, what is this law not enforceable?
It's not. Categorically, it's not. It's not. It's even an abuse. Because when you are talking about when you are talking about fundamental human rights, there is breach. Whose right has been breached in this situation? Do we not agree that constitutionally is the State Assembly that has been given mandate constitutionally to make laws? And do we not agree constitutionally that it's the state governor that will implement the law? So whom are you going to stop?
No, they actually restrain the IGP, the state government, and all their agents
IGP cannot engage his office and his people or officers into this issue, because he knows something has gone wrong. Categorically, I'm telling you, constitutionally, we know the responsibility of as a legislator is to make law. We know there is the responsibility of state governor or executive. It's just to implement the law. We know judicial is to interpret the law.
All right.
Do you understand? But in Nigerian court, the interpretation is what matters. It's politically interpreted.
Okay, let's hear from Mr. Fage. What do you think of this?
Well, in fact, even can be seen from my face. It is unfortunate and it baffles me. Initially, before even this response, he said the law that was made during Ganduja's administration was illegal and unconstitutional. It doesn't lie in a lawyer or even a judge not sitting as a judicial officer in court to pronounce what has been done as illegal and unconstitutional. It's for the court to make that pronouncement. But look at what we are seeing this morning. That's number one. Then for the order is not saying they should not pass the law, State Assembly or the governor should not assent that law. Already, as he rightly pointed out, the law has been passed. And the governor beautifully assented it yesterday. But that order of yesterday, or day before yesterday, was saying they should not give effect, they should not implement that law. You see, once the emir is enthroned, there is is it officer staff, that staff of office, there is instrument that will be issued to him confirming that you are indeed now the 16th Emir of Kano State. All these have not been done. Maybe it might be done today or tomorrow or Monday. So already the court now handed down decision. You should not do that. There is no one on earth that will not comply with that order. We are in a democratic society guided by constitution, by act, and laws of state and other enabling statutes. So I don't think, even if the law lecturer said, you know, and all the viewers know, this cannot be done. The governor I know is a law-abiding person. He will comply. I know he will comply with this order. Let the matter, because from the order I see it's a fundamental right enforcement, and the applicant is one of the appointees, is one of the first-class appointees in Kano State, Aminu Babadagun. In fact, in respect of even the law, you know, the law that they passed yesterday and was assented, I was surprised because they said they repealed 2019, 2020, and 2023 laws. And when you repeal laws, all these laws were annulled, were no longer in being, all the laws. So in essence, yesterday when that law, after it has been passed, was assented, in Kano there was no Emirate Council law. And in the absence of any law, with the exception of only this paragraph that dissolve the Emirate Council and now bring back the Emir of Kano, there was no any law. If you dissolve all the law, if you annul all the laws, so under what law? Because they have not enacted any other law. Under what law?
You know,
even
all of these considerations, Mr.
yesterday,
Fage, if you can hear me, all of this conversation we're having is all, it has certain origins that I'm not sure what you guys think. You are both lawyers, so you can speak to that. So on the one hand is the legal perspective, and I think it was Mr. Usman in our Kano studio who cited the political political considerations and implications of this. Do you want to speak to that, for a little bit, Mr. Usman, in our Abuja studio? What are these political considerations that you talk about? Beg your pardon, sorry, I mean our Kano studio, in the Kano studio. What are these political considerations that you cited earlier that you think need to be given attention? Because, of course, there are those who believe that dethroning or removing the emir from the throne at the time was all political. How do we insulate the traditional seats from such political influences?
I cannot.
Can you hear me, Mr. Usman? All right, well, maybe he cannot hear me. Mr. Fage, maybe I should ask you, I take that question to you then in our Abuja studio. How do you think we can insulate our traditional seats? You mentioned the fact that these seats are sacrosanct and should be given their dues. But then politicians from time to time will come and do whatever it is that they feel that they need to do, just as in the case of the removal of the Emir of Kano at the time. How do we insulate? What gives them that right, and how do we insulate the seats from such influences?
You see, as for me, apart from being a lawyer, I'm also a politician. But when these politicians are taking this revered and exalted office to this disdain, it's unfortunate. Me, I'm not in support of all this that has been doing right from the former administration and this administration. Because this institution, even the politician came and met it. This is the institution which in fact, yesterday when I was in court here, FCT High Court, we were discussing before our case was called often with one from Benin. He said the Oba of Benin is semi-god. That was what he told me yesterday. It's like he was even putting sun on my face, being from Kano. He said it's semi-god. No governor can dare do all this, what has been taking
Can't
place
also
in
take away
Kano,
the fact,
right
Mr.
from the
Fage,
former
just 1 second,
administration
Mr.
up to
Fage,
this
if you can
episode.
hear me. We can't also take away the
Yeah.
fact that the governor has the authority to appoint the traditional rulers, right? So that's why I'm asking the question, because the governor has that authority. He also has the power to appoint and to maybe remove. Whether or not that is a fact, you may want to speak to that, according to the law. But I'm looking at the political considerations that make them do the things they do just because they can.
Of course, initially this question was a little bit asked by one of your colleagues here. I answered, of course, he has that power. He has able right to appoint, to dissolve but in the course of appointing, the fact that you want to appoint someone, you have to appoint somebody that will bring joy and happiness to the people. Because all these governors, our president, all these elected officers, they were elected by the people, by majority of people. So they are expected to be seen doing all what it takes to bring joy and happiness to our people, not otherwise. So when you are making an appointment, let's appoint in that direction. When you are dethroning, let it be dethroned in that direction. But insofar as you cannot do it in that way, you just want maybe bring joy and happiness to one person or two persons, that is not acceptable within the context of our laws and constitution, because the entire law, one of the philosophers of law, Bentham, said, in fact, the whole law, once law is passed or once it's made, which is not bringing joy and happiness to the people, is not even the law.
Okay.
So that
well,
is the
Mr. Fage, let me take this to Kano now. There was a perspective that we brought in on this, something similar to this conversation yesterday, Mr. Usman, where we were asking how come our colonial masters, the British, the United Kingdom, have a monarchy over their democracy, but in our case we tend to have our democracy over the monarchy, the monarchical systems that we have grown with over the years, even before we began to have democracy, before we had colonial rule and all of that. How significant is that, such that the politicians, the democratic authorities now have the power to, in a manner of speaking, destabilize our historical, cultural, and traditional values? In this case, in point, that of traditional rulers.
Is very unfortunate or is very fortunate. When there was conquest of different territories that were in existence with their own peculiar systems, traditionally and religiously, since from there, the issue of constitutional, so our traditional institution is not constitutional. I hope you know. And the one that operates, let's say like in UK, is constitutional. And those that have been in existence in most of the Islamic world are constitutional. So you see, the issue of whether there is respect or there is otherwise against this traditional institution is the product of constitutional British colonialism. Very unfortunate. They made our system, which was highly respected, but because of force of indirect rule, then the situation had been changed. So it's unavoidable. And particularly, I have said this, when you are operating constitutional government, where the government is Republican of status. So whatever institution you have, it must be in compliance, total compliance with the Constitution.
Mr. Usman,
so that is the contention.
Interesting perspective you bring into the conversation. Let me ask the same question let me ask Mr. Fage the same question this morning. Democracy in Nigeria is over our cultural monarchical systems. In the UK, where we were weaned from democratically, or we have the democracy under their own monarchy. How significant do you see that being in our own context? Do you think we could have or should have done something about it to, I don't know, some kind of homegrown democracy here?
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, if you are indeed, as we said, this seat, the seat of our emirs, obas, and obis are exalted seat, are revered seat, there is need, of course, constitutionally for them to have a place in our constitution, our grand norm. Why? Because we cannot be saying we are respecting this office, we are respecting these personalities. All those personalities are worthy of being respected. But in reality, we are just saying it because there is need for an instrument, especially from grand norm, to give that recognition to them so that they will not be subjected to this issue of what transferred yesterday and some other years back. So there is need for them to have a place in our constitution so that they will be highly respected. That's my take on that.
All right, let me ask Mr. Usman Iman. Mr. Fage here had said that when the assembly repealed the laws, under what law did they reinstate the former emir? Can you speak to that?
Under the 1984 law, thereabout, he has mentioned. And now is what we call period of interregnum. Yes. So even if you say the governor cannot formally go and implement the substance of the law, but the governor has power to appoint Mr. Sunusi, let's say, or any other person to oversee, to be an overseer of that of Kano Emirate. So constitutionally, the governor is well backed to continue with the implementation of the current law.
Okay,
that is my position.
Mr. Fago, you seem to disagree with that.
Quite all right. You know, I've been watching your program for years. In fact, I did about 2-3 interviews with you last year and 2 years back. You are very sharp, very intelligent. I am not commending you just for the sake of anything, but for what I've been seeing, and it has been attested by so many people. You see, in 2019, when Ganduje administration wanted to amend that law to make the Emirate, to make the Emirate pipe, beachy and water, as read by my good sister here. They repealed the law. And which law was repealed? That law of 1984, because you have to repeal law. Ab initio, we had one emir in Kano, as you rightly pointed out. That was one emir courtesy of 1984 law. And Ganduje now came in 2019 and repealed the law. So that law of 1984 has been repealed by Ganduje. So which law now, as you put him, and he said, which law while Ganduje repealed and made 5 Emirate Council in Kano? Then, in fact, that aside, yesterday, I was reliably informed, because in their laws, one they passed yesterday, they say all the appointment of 2019, 2020, and 2023, all the appointment made by these emirs were also annulled, were also abrogated. And one of the kingmakers was appointed in 2022, and he was at the government house yesterday. As kingmaker, he was there after being appointed in 2022 by those dethroned emirs yesterday, and he was among those that okayed this enthroned emir. You can, as he even put something initially, you cannot put something, let me complete, you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stay. That's the wording of the revered Lord in UAC versus McCoy, that you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stay. Now you brought someone who has been removed by your law of yesterday, which you assented, and he was among those that okayed this emir. Please, We're in a society which is guided by law. We are not elsewhere. Please.
All right, I guess a lot of people will be watching to see what happens thereafter. Will the state government proceed today? Or in fact, we will see how they proceed today in light of these laws that are out there. So, gentlemen, Usman Iman, legal practitioner and a lecturer at the Yusuf Maitama Sule University, who joined us from our studios in Kano, as well as Adamu Fage here, who is here with us in the studio. Thank you both for coming on today.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful for having me. Thank you very much, viewers.